The karate dojo was silent, except for the thud of fists hitting pads. Black belts lined the walls, their eyes sharp and focused. Sensei Hiro, a towering man with a black belt tied tight, stood in the center. Suddenly, the door slammed open. A woman in a plain blue dress stepped inside. She looked ordinary short, with messy hair and tired eyes. Everyone stared. She didn't belong here. You! She shouted, pointing at Sensei Hiro. Her voice shook the room. I'm going to take you down. Right here. Right now. Gasps filled the air. A simple woman threatening a black belt? Impossible! Sensei Hiro's eyes narrowed. Leave or you'll regret it, he warned, but she didn't move. Instead, she dropped her bag and stepped forward, her fists clenched. The students whispered. Was she crazy? Her name was Lila. Nobody knew her, but her eyes burned with something dangerous. She looked weak, but her stare made even the toughest fighters shiver. I'm not scared of you, she said, her voice low and fierce. Sensei Hiro laughed, but it sounded nervous. He stepped closer, ready to teach her a lesson. The room felt like it was holding its breath. Would she really fight him? Then Lila did something shocking. She kicked off her shoes, revealing scarred feet that looked like they'd been through battles. The crowd gasped again. Sensei Hiro froze. Last chance, he said, but his voice cracked. Lila smirked, and in a flash, she lunged straight at him. Days earlier, Lila was just a shadow in the small town of Oakwood. She lived in a tiny house with peeling paint, working as a cleaner at the local library. Nobody noticed her. She wore plain clothes, kept her head down, and spoke softly, if she spoke at all. But Lila had a secret. At night, when the town slept, she trained. In her backyard, under the moonlight, she punched trees until her knuckles bled. She wasn't always like this, but something had changed her. Something dark. Back in the dojo, the memory of Lila's lunge hung in the air. Sensei Hiro had dodged her attack. Barely. His face was pale. Who are you? He demanded, stepping back. The students watched, frozen. Lila didn't answer. She stood tall, her plain dress swaying as she shifted her weight. Her eyes locked onto Hiro like a wolf spotting prey. The room felt smaller, the air heavier. Nobody knew what she'd do next. Earlier that week, Lila had overheard kids at the library talking about Sensei Hiro. They said he was unbeatable, a legend who'd never lost a fight. But they also whispered about his temper, how he'd yell at students, make them feel small. Lila's jaw had tightened. She knew men like him, men who thought they were untouchable. She'd met one before, long ago. That man had left scars on her heart and her fists. Now, in the dojo, a student whispered, "She's bluffing." But Lila heard it. She turned, her gaze sharp enough to cut. Want to test me? She asked. The student shrank back. Then, Lila did something chilling. She cracked her knuckles, and the sound echoed like a warning. Sensei Hiro raised his hands, ready to fight. Enough games, he shouted. But then, the lights flickered. Everyone gasped. When they looked back, Lila was gone. The dojo was in chaos. Students whispered, their eyes darting to the shadows where Lila had vanished. Sensei Hiro wiped sweat from his brow, his black belt suddenly feeling too tight. She's a coward, he growled, but his voice shook. Nobody believed him. The flickering lights had stopped, but the air felt electric, like a storm was coming. Outside, the wind howled, rattling the windows. Earlier that day, Lila had been at the library, dusting shelves. A photo had slipped from a book, a faded picture of a younger Lila standing in a fighting ring, her fists raised in victory. Her eyes in the photo were fierce, unbreakable. She'd stuffed it back, her hands trembling. That was her pasta life of underground fights, where she'd beaten men twice her size. She'd left it behind after a fight went too far, swearing never to hurt anyone again. But hearing about Sensei Hiro had woken something in her, something hungry. Now, in the dojo, a creak came from the ceiling. Everyone looked up, dust fell, and then, crash! Lila dropped through a vent, landing in a crouch. The crowd screamed. She stood slowly, her plain dress torn, revealing muscles carved from years of secret training. I warned you, she said to Hiro. He lunged, throwing a punch, but Lila sidestepped like she'd seen it coming. She grabbed his arm, twisted, and flung him to the mat. The thud echoed. Students gasped. Hiro scrambled up, shocked. You don't know me, Lila said, her voice low. But you will. She stepped closer, her scarred feet silent on the mat. Hiro's eyes widened. He'd never faced anyone like her. Then, Lila's gaze shifted. A student was sneaking behind her, holding a wooden staff. She didn't turn, but her lips curled into a dangerous smile. The dojo felt like it was holding its breath. The student with the wooden staff crept closer, thinking he could surprise Lila. Her smile grew sharper. Without looking, she spun, snatched the staff mid-swing, and snapped it in half with one hand. The crack echoed like thunder. The student stumbled back, eyes wide with fear. Lila tossed the broken pieces aside, her gaze locked on Sensei Hiro. Anyone else? She asked, her voice calm but deadly. Nobody moved. Earlier that morning, Lila had sat in her tiny kitchen, staring at her scarred hands. She'd promised herself she'd never fight again. Years ago, in the underground rings, she'd been a legend called the Ghost because she moved so fast, no one could touch her. But one fight ended in blood, and she'd run from that life, hiding in Oakwood. Hearing about Hiro's cruelty had cracked her promise. She couldn't let another bully win. Back in the dojo, Hiro roared, charging at Lila. He threw a flurry of punches, each one faster than the last. The students cheered, thinking their sensei would win, but Lila danced around his attacks, her movements smooth, like water. She ducked, weaved, and then struck her fist, slamming into Hiro's chest. He gasped, staggering back, clutching his ribs. How? He wheezed. Lila didn't answer. Her eyes burned with years of buried pain. The students were silent now, torn between awe and fear. Lila wasn't just a woman in a dress, she was something else, something unstoppable. Hiro tried to stand, his face red with shame. This isn't over, he shouted, grabbing a training sword from the wall. Lila's expression didn't change, but her fists tightened. The room grew hotter, the tension unbearable. The dojo's back door burst open, and a gust of wind swept through. A tall figure stood in the shadows, holding a flashlight that cut through the dim room. Lila! A deep voice called. Everyone froze, even Sensei Hiro, his training sword trembling in his hands. Lila's eyes narrowed, but she didn't turn. She knew that voice. It was Marcus, her old trainer from the underground fighting days. He'd found her. Hours before, Lila had left a note in her house. If I don't come back, don't look for me. She'd known confronting Hiro could end badly, but she couldn't stop. Hiro's cruelty reminded her of the man who'd scarred her pasta fighter who'd hurt people she loved. She had to face him, even if it meant breaking her vow never to fight again. Now, Marcus stepped into the light, his face grim. You don't have to do this, he said. Lila's jaw tightened. Yes, I do, she whispered. Hiro, sensing her distraction, swung his sword. But Lila was too fast. She ducked, rolled, and kicked his legs out. The sword clattered away as Hiro hit the mat, groaning. The students gasped, some backing toward the walls. Lila stood over Hiro, her chest heaving. You think you're strong because you scare people? She said, her voice shaking with rage. Real strength is fighting for what's right. Hiro glared but said nothing. Marcus stepped closer. Lila, enough. You've won. She looked at him, her eyes soft for the first time. Was he right? Then a student yelled, "She's a monster." Others nodded, afraid. Lila's heart sank. She'd wanted to stop a bully, but had she become one? She dropped her fists, stepping back. Suddenly, Hero lunged, grabbing a hidden knife from his belt. Lila's eyes widened.